Hi Jesus Freak, this is D. Joseph Allen. This is a video response to your video, Do You Hunger for God? You ask if I hunger for God, talking about me personally. Well, Jesus Freak, I've wanted to make a video like this for a little while. The actual root for this video, comes from the fact that ever since I've been on YouTube, I've heard some of the same arguments over and over again about atheists and non-believers. You don't believe in God because you hate him. You don't believe in God because you want to keep living in sin and you don't want to be accountable for your actions. And the timeless classic, a fool says in his heart there is no God. And so on and so forth. Now, Jesus Freak, you're used to interacting with people like the Amazing Atheist and Captain Awesome and Variablast and many others who, I guess you would call strong atheists, even militant atheists. Now, of course, being a Christian and having to confront these users, well, there's gonna be friction and there's gonna be conflict. Now, these atheists on YouTube, they're long-standing. They openly proclaim that their lack of a belief in God. They criticize religion and they make fun sometimes of people of faith, and they can be a little abrasive, even to not other non-believers. So, let me throw this at you right here. I didn't want to be an atheist. You think I wanted to be an atheist? You think I wanted to not believe in an all-powerful being that is looking over me and that cares about me, just so that I could have premarital sex and do some drugs? Um, you know, you think I didn't want to be an atheist. It didn't start out hoping, hey, I hope there is no God because then that means that I can do anything. So I'll clarify at the end what I mean by I didn't want to be an atheist or I don't want to be an atheist, because it's not as simple as it sounds, but if you'll hang on with me, I'll get to that. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little background so you understand where I'm coming from. I was born into a Jewish family, and like most, or at least a lot of other people, I never really questioned the truth of my religion. I figured that, out of the three major monotheisms, Judaism was the first one, and therefore the right one. I used to honestly believe in God. When I moved to Houston 3 years ago, I ended up living in a house with a roommate that was an evangelical Christian. Now, this whole thing started one night when we were talking, we were just having a cigarette, smoking outside. And we started talking, and the conversation turned to religion suddenly. And he asked me if I wanted to marry a Jewish girl. And I said that, it wasn't absolutely necessary, but I thought that similar backgrounds makes things easier. Marriage is hard enough in itself for you to want to add something, an additional barrier there, I guess you could call it. So, slowly the conversation started turning to his evangelizing, and I kind of could see where he was going with that. So I asked him, do you think I'm going to hell? And he pretty much said yes. So, at first this was a real big shock to me because, when you meet somebody and they're so smart and they're so talented and they're so centered in every other aspect in their life, and yet they can so easily look at a friend in the eyes and tell them that they're going to hell. So this was pretty shocking to me. After I had this conversation, I asked to borrow his Bible, and I started reading, through the mostly the New Testament, because I never even opened the New Testament. And I got other books on religion and on science, and I started watching videos on YouTube and reading a bunch of stuff, and I asked questions, and I was asking people for their experiences, because I was honestly trying to find my way to the truth. So now, this being said, here's my first set of questions. At this point in time, I was pretty much a blank slate. I just started to question my beliefs. I started looking into other religions. I was looking for guidance and answers, and I was learning about Christ and the gospel message, so on and so forth. So my question is this: why, Jesus Freak, did I end up finding that I just couldn't believe any of it? Why did I find the arguments against these religions more compelling than the arguments for it? I was pretty much just sitting in the middle. I wanted to believe in God. I wanted to continue believing God like I had. And I was in the middle, like I said, I was a blank slate. So it would have been a perfect moment for God to guide me to the truth and to take me through the necessary steps to help me become a believer. Why did I end up on the opposite side of the spectrum, i.e., disbelief? Now, inevitably, I'm gonna get this thrown out at me. Oh well, you have free will and you chose. Well, yes, of course I chose, but that's just a lame excuse. I mean, I'm using my free will, but I'm using it to look at the evidence and evaluate what I believe. And I can't be held accountable if the evidence is just overwhelmingly against something or for something. If I can't count on God to guide me to the truth when I'm confused and looking for answers, then what the hell can I count on Him for? I mean, I was honestly in the middle. It could have gone either way, and it would have been a perfect time for God to just shove me in the right direction, and yet nothing happened. However, I'm not an anti-theist. I don't hate the idea of God. If I could actually find good reasons to believe, I would. I mean, are you kidding me? You think I don't want to believe that there's an all-powerful being that's looking over me and that cares about me and that has a purpose for me, and that when I die, He's going to reunite me with all my friends and my loved ones and my family members? I mean, it's just ridiculous. Of course I would love to believe it. So, here's a part where you say, but D. Joseph Allen, all you have to do is humble yourself and repent and admit you're a sinner and ask God to come into your heart. Well, surprise, I have. Like I said before, you can go back and you can look at the first videos I made, and I was looking for help, and I got it from a lot of people. And I read the Bible, and I wanted to believe. And then one night, I kneeled down, and I prayed the sinner's prayer, and I asked God to come into my heart, and I was at the brink of tears, and nothing happened. I didn't feel born again. I didn't feel God's presence. I didn't see, feel, taste, touch, or smell anything. And I promise you, I was sincere. I was being honest. Now you can say I wasn't, but I'm not even gonna get into that because of course it's like, oh, like when some Christians say, oh, if you were now an atheist, you were never really a Christian. I think that's just bull, but I can't convince you except to give you my word that I was sincere and I was honest. So where does this leave me? It leads me to conclude that not only is everything around me pointing to the non-existence of God, but my personal plea, my spiritual search, came up empty as well. So I didn't want to not believe in God so I could live in sin. I didn't accept evolution because it's a godless theory. I didn't want to believe that there's no benevolent, loving God watching over us. I didn't want to be an atheist. But I didn't want to be blind to reality a lot more. And now that I'm not blind to reality, I'm more happy and fulfilled than I ever was. And the beauty I find in humanity's efforts to learn and explore, the new perspective I have on the universe, and the poetry of science have been more inspiring than anything I ever read in the Bible.